What's up, everybody? How's your Friday doing? Ours is going well. I am very thankful. I decided to take a nap earlier. I had a really bad headache. Don't know why, but we are good now. Now, do have some updates for you. So we had sent out a survey about our EasyBoard V2, and we have decided that we will be doing a limited pre-order, meaning we're going to allocate the number of boards that we're having in production and make those available to pre-order. If we hit that pre-order before the production is done, we will then immediately get more boards into production. So my goal is to have the pre-order set up and live by Friday of next week, with the estimated lead time, which is still looking to be end of this month, maybe at the latest the first week of what is October the next month? Yeah, October's the next month. So that being said, I want to show you guys one of the cool features that we haven't divulged yet, and I'm going to show you live on the stream. Now, I do want to say this is the prototype board. The only difference between this board and the retail board is there's a wiring change we had to make for the USB port, and we added some LEDs. But I'm testing the short circuit protection that we added on to the hot end and thermistor inputs, because many of you guys have heard me talk about cleaning your hot end with a wire brush. You can send that positive 12 to 24 volt line into your thermistors and cook the processor on a lot of boards, including our old V1 board. So to try to combat users doing stupid things to their printers, we decided to build in a protection circuit. So this board has its drivers missing. It was a prototype, so I've been doing a lot of swapping of things and checking things, but the circuitry for the thermistor is exactly the same as on the retail boards. So I have this hooked up to a bench supply right now. I have two resistors on here that are emulating thermistors. So 510 ohms gives us about 205C. 10K ohms gives us about 86C. So this is on the bed, this is on the hot end. So I want to show you guys how this behaves with the new protection circuit that we built into this board. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my bench supply on. So this is a 24 volt, 10 amp supply. I have the current set to max, so it'll give up to 10 amps. I don't know if you can see here, there's a burn mark on my lead, and that's because because of what I'm about to show you here, to show you that this has 24 volts positive coming out. The bench supply will shut off when I do this because it's going to cut the power. So you can see here, it should spark. There we go. And the board will restart. So this is emulating you taking a wire brush to your hot end. Most boards, when you do this, will just give up the ghost. Trying to make this more user-friendly is one of the goals here. So, all right, so I've got my hot end here. So I unplug this. You'll see this is the hot end. It should go to ERR because there's nothing on there. And this is the bed. So check this out. So I'm going to go ahead and put it 24 volts directly into the I/O pins. Watch the temperatures. So I am holding this on here. Okay, so temperatures get a little wonky. I'm going to go ahead and just keep putting it in. I'm just shoving 24 volts into the I/O pins here. Let's go ahead and do it on the hot end side. Look at that. Look at that. So I'm just going to hold it there. Hold it there. And we're going to let it go. Look at that. We're back to where we should go. So hopefully what this means to you guys is if you accidentally do stupid shit to your board, like your printer, like cleaning the hot end with a wire brush while the power's on, hopefully this should mean that the board just isn't going to give a crap. Yeah. What should I do a video should I do a video doing it to our board and then doing it to a Big Tree Tech board and see which one survives? I can tell you which one will survive. It's not going to be the Big Tree Tech board. I do want to show a little Easter egg, or not Easter egg, but a little thing I put on here in case there's any question if you should add heatsinks to our board. It says do not add heatsinks. So yeah, there's been a lot of focus on this new board of deflecting or surviving user issues. So as we've sold the V1 board, we've been keeping a log of what stupid shit people have done to the boards. And we've tried to design in protections to make sure that even if you accidentally do something dumb, the board does its best to keep running. So, yeah. Anyways, that was a really cool feature. So now I'll be honest, I did all the testing on here. I was very nervous to do the testing because while Griff and I can sit down and discuss and design circuits, it's one thing to do it on software and it's another thing in practice, which is why I was doing it on this board, which is the prototype, because I honestly wasn't sure. Like, we were like, it should protect it, but we didn't know. So I was like, you know what, this board is not useful anyways because of all the other stuff I've done to it during testing. So if I fry it, I fry it. But I sent the power into it and I was like, well, shit. It's actually working exactly how we thought it would. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, so there's that. So we will be doing a pre-order. My goal is to have that pre-order live on the 24th, which is next Friday. We will be doing limited quantities, so we're not going to sell more boards on the pre-order than we actually have on the way. They are in production. We have all the parts. And then basically, like I said, we're looking at having them at the end of the month or at the latest, the end of the first week of October. So we really are trying to do our best at estimating timelines, but if we get shipping delays, like they get stuck up in customs or whatever, that could always set it back. So there will be disclaimers like that on there being, hey, this is our best guess, this isn't a guaranteed date. So yeah. Yep. Yeah, the Daedalus is chugging away. It's printing out ABS parts for a customer. I'm using it way more now that I have it for ABS because it's such a big printer. If I need something small, I usually run off my Ender 3, but now that I got the enclosure, it's great. So Joe actually went up to Misumi today to go get the extrusion for the Ender 6 enclosure, and we are still on track to have that out by the end of the month as well. So I hope you guys like that little sneak peek. I don't know if you caught there, we've got a dedicated serial header on the new board, dedicated NeoPixel header. Yeah, a couple other little goodies on there. We try to get as much stuff onto this board. We are literally using every single input-output pin on this processor. So, anyways, I hope you guys are having a good Friday. I'm feeling a lot better. I did not want to take a nap because I got so much stuff to do, but then I was staring at my screen. I don't know if anybody follows my personal channel. You'll see I uploaded a video complaining about Ready Refresh being damn near impossible to cancel. It's wild. I sent them an email again today saying that if I don't hear back from them, I'm going to be throwing their cooler and all their bottles into our dumpster, as well as filing a complaint with the Indiana Attorney General. And magically, I got a reply with a new phone number and was actually able to cancel. Imagine that. I've been trying to contact this company for a week and a half. The one phone number that they had listed would tell you that there's too many callers and hang up. And sometimes you could get through to the menu, and then when you get through the menu to cancel, it would tell you there's too many callers and then hang up. So yeah. But, oh, Remo's going to be complaining because he hears, my buddy Joel is here. We're going to be hanging out after the stream, but he's out there flying his drone. Yeah, great. So, what are people talking about? Yeah, so anyways, yeah, so I have two of the EasyBoard V2s. This is one, and the other one is in my Ender 3. You need to chill or I'm going to put you in the house. You need to chill. You're not going out and chasing the drones. And then Apulo in our Discord server has one. He did not bribe me. He offered, he's like, hey, I will put the effort into getting Clipper working on there. I was like, sure, I'll send you a board if you're willing to do that. So, but he knows way more about Clipper than I do. So, and he knows his way around a board. So, all right, let's get into the questions here, because that's what we're here for. I am going to wrap up at 6 o'clock because I don't want to keep Joel waiting. But let's see. All right. Where's the first question for today? And the giveaway form is open. John is in Portugal. Good afternoon in Portuguese. Let's see. John says, I have a very important question to ask everyone. Is there a way I can print myself a new life? I feel like if you got rid of your printer, you might have actual time for real life. But who wants to interact with other people these days? I sure as hell don't. I've got like a handful of people I enjoy spending time with, and everybody else I avoid. John asks, why are some YouTubers' names in green? Because they are members of the channel. Speaking of being a channel member, if you guys are looking to pick up some Vision Miner nanopolymer, we have that on sale through the end of the month. Right now, it is discounted $5, and the samples are discounted $2. If you're a YouTube channel member, you can also go on the channel here, look at the community post, and there's an additional $5 off code if you're a channel member. So you can get a full big bottle that's usually $50 retail. You can get it for $39.99. So, yeah. Let's see. Jonathan Barnes, have I looked at the Ender 2 Pro yet? No, but I did order one from Creality already. It cost me $329, and over half of that was shipping to get it here. I already have it on the way. They sent me an email before there was any mention of it online. I said, yes, I'll take one. And then I got the invoice, and I was like, holy crap, shipping is more than the printer. And I said, screw it, we need to get one anyways. I'm just gonna take one on the chin for the team. So, but yeah, let's see. So I will have it. Who here thinks that customers are going to get completely confused by the Ender 2 and the Ender 2 Pro? And I can tell you right now, we're probably going to have people that have the 2 Pro once that starts making its way out to the public that are going to buy parts for the 2 and then complain to us because it doesn't work with the 2 Pro. Because the 2 is a 12-volt printer. The Pro is I'm going to be assuming they're using 24 volts on it. So, yeah. And I see John joined the caffeine fund. I appreciate it. That goes towards my ma. Ooh, I got some in my beard. There we go. All right. What other questions do we have? Oh, I do have one other thing. I'm all over the place today. What else is new? Hey, ADHD. Anyways, if you guys do like listening to these streams, obviously you're watching right now, but I do want to let you know, one of the guys private messaged me on Discord and suggested taking the stream, taking the audio out and putting it as a podcast. So now we are officially, the Ask Tim streams are now officially available on replay, where all major podcasts are available. So Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts should be live in a couple of days. It'll be on Pandora. It's already on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Podbean. I'm probably forgetting something. Google Podcasts. I might have already said that already. So once the stream is done, I will take a copy, strip the audio out, and upload the audio to podcast format. So, yeah. So if you guys don't catch the actual streams, or you don't want to watch on YouTube, or you want to listen to them on your way home from work or to work, you can subscribe to the podcast too. So, anyways, let's see. You guys need to post questions. I'm hoping I find questions as I go down. Mike Vieser, warranty on it? Yes, we warranty our boards. So, and other companies say they have warranties, but we actually have a team behind said warranty that will actually get back to you. Mike said he was able to get Octoprint working with the Unify switch. I'm curious to know what you had to do. I'm genuinely curious. What did you have to do? What was the issue? It's probably be something dumb. It's probably something dumb, isn't it? Downer vs. Seto says, upgrading a tough extruder. My extruder motor gets noticeably hot, like 70 to 85 C. Should I change to a Pancake motor? No, just back your VREF down. Now, it is not unnormal if you go from a regular non-geared extruder to a geared extruder for the motor to run hotter. I have noticed that on every single printer I've gone to a geared extruder, whether that's putting one of our tough extruders on or a geared Bontex style. The easiest way is to just drop your VREF down a little bit. So depending on what board you have like an easy board or another board that allows you to control the drivers, you just do it through the printer's LCD screen. And then if you don't, then you got to get your multimeter out and adjust it. So 70C, I wouldn't be too concerned about. 85C, you are getting into that territory. If it is running 85C, I would recommend backing your VREF down a little. You know, depending on what printer or depending on who built your printer, if it's you, then you're at fault. But the manufacturers, I've noticed, Creality has set VREFs for their boards, but they aren't always adjusted to the correct VREF every single time. So you might get one printer that it's set a little higher than the other because it's all manually adjusted. But I would just recommend just drop in general, if when you're troubleshooting, you know, step loss, if it's too low or a motor's running too hot, which would mean the VREF is too high, I generally recommend drop it down or up in 0.1 volt increments and then see if the issue resolves, whether that issue is step loss or it is the motor running too hot. So in the case of a motor running too hot, you would drop down run some prints, check the temps. If it's you know, around 60 C, you're fine. You know, if you're getting step loss, bump it up in a 0.1 volt increment and then see if the issue resolves itself. So I do know there are calculations out there that you can do depending on what driver you have and the resistance of your coils. I don't get that scientific with it. I set it, you know, usually around 0.8, 0.9 if we're talking like 4988 drivers. I do notice that the TMCs, if you're in standalone mode, they do run a little higher, so I usually start around 1.0 volts on the VREF. And then just go from there. You know, check for step loss, check for motor running too hot. So those are really the two things you need to look out for, because if your VREF is too low, then you're going to lose steps. If your VREF is too high, you're not going to lose steps, but your motor's going to run too hot. So, yeah, anyways. M. Pombarger, does new Tasmota plugin in Home Assistant replace the need to have MQTT installed? It does not. I thought it would, but it kind of works alongside it. Ask me how I know. Because I converted one of my bulbs. I converted my bulbs in here over to the new integration, but it still relies on MQTT as far as I know. I could be wrong, but I had to have both. You just turn off the MQTT discovery, so it's still using MQTT for certain things, but it no longer uses the discovery portion of MQTT. So let's see. John said, yeah, Octoprint says if I just started film and change when the print sent before actual printing. I don't see M600 and G-code. Any ideas? You might not have filament loaded in your printer. If you have a filament sensor on your printer and you start the print before you actually have filament in the printer, meaning, you know, I'm going to print this file. Okay, well, I'm going to hit print, and then I'm going to go over to the printer while it's preheating and load the filament. If you don't have filament in the sensor and you're sending a print job to it, it's going to trigger the filament runout typically. That's how it's always worked in, you know, the older versions of Marlin. I actually have not started a print without filament in the sensor in a long time, so I can't confirm that, but I would assume that the new 2.0 is still doing that same kind of workflow. So yeah, if it's actually going through a filament change, it's probably because the filament wasn't loaded all the way. So, you know, when I start my printers, I make sure the filament's loaded in there, and I go through the preheat, and then I tell it to start. So, Dimitri, can I put Vision Miner on Prusa sheets? As far as I know, yes. I mean, we use them on our PEI plates all the time with no issues. I believe Prusa's PEI. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I have one Prusa plate here, and it's like a PEI sheet. And as far as I know, it's PEI. So, and Vision Miner works fine with PEI. Let's see. Ben Cave is asking about STM32F103 RET6 Creality versus the same thing but with maple at the end. The one that does not have maple at the end uses the ST libraries, and the other ones with maple uses the maple library. So just different STM32 chips or different STM32 libraries that are available. The maple one is mostly community written code. As far as I know, that maple library is still using ST's USB library, which is bound by their license. And the Creality one is using a lot more of ST's code, which is fine if you're using it on a genuine STM32 processor. If you're using a, you know, knockoff like a GigaDevice chip, then you're actually in violation of the license agreement for the software using maple, I believe, because of the ST license agreement with the USB communications library that they use. you have to use it with an ST processor. Otherwise, you're technically in violation of the license agreement. So, less so with Maple. The thing with Maple is it is using STM's USB library to facilitate USB communications. So, there's that. Let's see. All right. I'm looking here. Mike V, yes. So he said he changed the port to auto negotiate from auto negotiating to 100 megabits. Oh, I wonder. So Mike, let me ask you this: are you using PoE splitters to power your Pis? Because if you are, I think I might know what the issue is. I'm gonna wait till you put your answer in chat there, because that just gave me deja vu of a problem I had, and it wasn't Unify related. You're not? Okay, I'm still gonna say anyways. So if you have the Pi 3, the Pi 3B and the 3B Plus, those came out. The Pi 3B has a 10100 interface. The 3B Plus actually has a gigabit interface. If you're using PoE splitters that are only 10100 instead of 10100 1000 with the Pi 3B Pluses, they actually will not work if you use the only 100 megabit capable splitters with the Pi 3Bs, unless you force the port to only operate at 100 megabits per second. That's weird that you're having that on the Unify and it wasn't auto negotiation. That's really weird. So, Remo might be looking for more waffle fries. Possibly. That dog is food motivated. You want to talk about a food motivated dog? He's probably the most food motivated dog I have ever met in my entire life. I guess he takes after me. I'm pretty food motivated, if you guys couldn't tell. All right, Golden TV says, first, what is VREF? VREF refers to, its voltage reference is what it refers to. What that means is, basically, the layman's explanation is higher VREF, aka higher voltage on the potentiometer adjustment for your control board, the more current that goes to the motor. You said you're replacing your motherboard with a 427 Ender 3 because of mad layer shifting. Now, are you on Ender 3 or Ender 3 V2? The 427 will work in either one. I'm just curious because the 3V2s are known to have layer shifting issues because the drivers overheat. Because Creality cheaped out on the copper, like they always do. So, let's see here. V2, yep, that's not uncommon. Basically, the drivers overheat and you get layer shifting. So, it might go away if you lower the VREF and put a fan on there. But it's a known issue that the V2s, the Ender 3 V2s, one, they set the VREFs too high and the drivers run too hot and you lose steps because they shut down. And two, they also overheat because there's not enough copper. So like, you know, our easy boards, we use 4 layers, 2-ounce copper on every single layer. Most boards that will advertise 2-ounce copper, they actually only have 2-ounce copper on the outside layers. So you have layer 1, 2, 3, 4. Layers 1 and 4 would have the 2-ounce copper. Our board has 4 layers, but 2-ounce, 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 whereas the other competition will have 2-ounce, half-ounce, half-ounce, 2-ounce. So when you're using, the reason you don't have heat sinks on these drivers is because the PCB is what actually sinks the heat away. If you look at the back, of the board, you will see where the driver is attached. So this is where the driver attaches. This is just vias for the ground plane, and then drivers, ground plane, drivers, ground plane, drivers. The chips dump their heat through the bottom of them, not through the top. That's why putting heat sinks on the top is not ideal, because that's not where the heat is meant to be sunk away per the manufacturer. Not my personal preference. This is how they're designed. These chips are designed to sink their heat through the bottom of the chip. So what Creality does is to save on cost, because it's much more expensive to go, especially 4 layers of 2 ounce every single layer. It's technically a custom configuration. So normally when you go to a PCB assembler or a PCB maker and you say, hey, I want 2 ounce copper on my boards, and you're using 4 layers, they're only going to do it on the top and bottom layers. Whereas we're doing it on every single layer, which brings the cost up by a factor of about 3 to 4 times, depending on where you're getting the boards made. So, but the benefit of that is more copper equals more heat-seeking capability, which is why you do not ever add drivers onto our boards. If you have, I saw someone asking about the EasyBoard V1 and V2. If you actually read the manual, it will say do not add heat sinks. You do not ever add heat sinks to our EasyBoards. They do not do it. If you put heat sinks on your board and you short something out, it will void your warranty. So that's one of the reasons why on the back of this board, this is the V2, can you see here? It says do not add heat sinks. So I wanted to put it on the V1s, but that would require us to revise the PCB, and I didn't feel like doing it. But on the V2s, right there. So if somebody ever asks, we'll be like, look at the back of the board. Let's see. What's the next question here? What's the difference between the V1 and V2 boards? Pab TV says we put a 2 on the end. Now there's a lot of differences. There will be a comparison page. We will have all the details posted next week once we do the pre-order. There's a lot of stuff. If you're expecting to go from a V1 to V2 and seeing like print quality improvements, they're going to print basically exactly the same. So you know, unless you're really itching to get the V2 just to say you have a V2 to all the other nerds on the internet, you know, don't waste your money going from the V1 to the V2. You're not going to see a print quality improvement. The V1 is still a very capable board, and we're still not even using all the CPU horsepower that's available on the V1. Now, that being said, because I like swinging my E-pin around, the V2 is going to be even faster and have more memory than the V1, just because we can. Yeah, because why not? Just go for broke. You know, to give you an idea, that the little processor on our V2 board is actually faster than what the Duet 2 is packing. It's a little bit slower than a Duet 3, but it's over twice the speed of what Big Tree Tech and Creality are putting on their drop-in replacement boards. So the processor on this is a Cortex M4 running at 168 megahertz. It's got a floating point unit built into it, 1 whole megabyte of flash, and we also, on top of the 1 mega flash, have a dedicated 4K EEPROM chip. So tons of memory for programs, 192K of RAM. It's a little beast. Like, this chip is ridiculous how much they packed into this chip, and we are using genuine STM32 processors. You will never see a board from us that has knockoffs like Big Tree Tech is doing with those gigadevice chips. So we will only ever use chips from reputable companies, you know, like Atmel, NXP, ST. You know, we're not going to use these compatible ones that are cheap because we're trying to cut corners like other companies do. Let's see here. Dennis Epley, what's the next project you're going to work on? I got to finish all the other projects I started before I start up a new project. Yeah. So the only reason I have no problem divulging the CPU is if you guys look at the source code we've had posted for a couple weeks, we literally have the part number in there. If you guys are wondering, it's the F4 series from STM. It's the 405 RGT. Is it the RGT? Yeah, 405 RGT6. So that's 1 whole megabyte of freaking flash memory. While Big Tree Tech's over here cheaping out with 256K. We're like, nope, 1 megabyte, just boom. Let's see, what other questions? All right. M. Kelly, do you plan on carrying the Ender 6 hot end and fan in ABS in the store, the ones that did upstream, or can I have you guys print them? No, we're not going to officially sell those. I don't think the Pets Fang stuff is... I mean, I'm sure Dave probably wouldn't give a shit if I did. But if you want us to print something for you, we can print it. So just send a print farm request with the STL files. Please don't be like, hey, I want the thing that Tim printed on stream. No, actually send us the STL files. Our form actually has an option to upload them. And the reason we do that is because it's like, well, we're printing what you sent us, so that way there's no, well, you as in like someone here at TH3D selected the wrong files and didn't understand what I meant. It's like, these are the files I want printed in this material, in this color, this layer height, let us know all that and we can get them printed. So I do have a couple machines here, so I could actually run them off on my machines. And we also have a ton in the print farm. So most print farm requests will go through me. They'll be printed on my Daedalus, the Ender 5 Plus, or the custom build back there if we're doing ABS. For larger jobs, we'll usually run them off on the farm. So, but for like onesie, twosie stuff, if there's like something you want to print, like maybe you can't print ABS, maybe your printer's broken, we'd be more than happy to print stuff for you. So if you guys ever get in a pinch and you don't know anybody else that has a 3D printer, feel free to reach out to us. Our pricing is very reasonable on printed stuff. So, I will tell you right now, if you want supports removed, if it's a part that needs support, it will be extra to have us remove supports. I hate removing supports. Let's see. No, we will not be taking returns or credits to send back your old board. I'm sure there's plenty of people, because like I said, the V1 board is still a very capable board. I'm sure there's plenty of people that would buy those secondhand. We don't sell the V1 anymore, and we won't. We're not going to bring it back because we can't get the processors, and we're moving on to the V2. There's no point in us keeping the V1 going. Let's see. Sorry, chat jumped. I'm trying to find where I'm at. Where is it? Tom Taylor, when do we have more horsepower than actual printer speed? I think we're there. I think we're at that point already. Does Coax have a color that's similar to the color of the Ender 6? They've got their aqua blue is pretty close. I'm assuming you mean by like those end caps. Their aqua blue is pretty close. It might be a little bit brighter, have a little more pop, which we do carry the aqua blue. I don't know. They have quite a few colors. We don't carry all their colors. We carry like their popular ones. We carry quite a few now though. I'm checking Coax, PLA. Yeah, the aqua blue is definitely a little too. I'm looking at it just on screen. Yeah, the aqua blue's got definitely a brighter color. They've got their cobalt blue, which is similar to the color I printed on stream. That was just some random PLA I have. Yeah, they don't have one that's exactly that. I would probably go, I don't know, the aqua blue is going to be a little brighter of a blue, and then the cobalt blue is going to be a shade or two darker. I mean, if you're trying to match, I would probably go maybe the aqua blue, because like what's on the printer is kind of like a baby blue, and I feel like the aqua blue is like a step brighter. I'd probably go with the aqua blue, unless you like the darker color. I wasn't trying to match. The reason my parts were in that blue ABS is because that's what was loaded in the printer when I hit print. RAM design. What material and layer height did you print the Chiron fan? A Chiron upgrade fan shroud in? I did it in 0.2 and ABS. M. Poffenbarger, I would definitely recommend doing ABS for the Pat's Fang. Absolutely ABS. Some people say they can get away with PLA. My experience when I printed any Pat's Fang ducts, specifically the duct itself, is that over time the fangs start going like this, and then they hit the print and it's a catastrophic failure. Even with a sock on the hot end. iZap Things says he's done calibration. I find all the calibrations I can find for Z steps. I'm still losing steps of I am still losing step as the height of the Z goes up. Ender 3v2 dual Z axis 422 board adjusted the voltage for Z from 1 to 2 steppers. Now here's the thing: you do not calibrate your Z steps or your X steps or your Y steps. The only steps you calibrate are your E, and here's why. Your X, Y, and Z steps are determined by what is physically on that axis. If you have a belt, it is determined by what stepping mode your driver is, what step angle your motor is, being 1.8 degree, which is standard, or 0.9. The size of the pulley that the belt is attaching to on the actual motor shaft, how many teeth it has, and the belt type. So you do not calibrate your X, Y, and Z steps like you do your extruder. And this is because those are a fixed value. You end up causing more problems doing a calibration than you fix. I have never calibrated my X, Y, and Z here. On a Z, it's determined by, again, your step mode your driver's in, whether that's 1/16 stepping, 1/8, 1/4, whatever. Your motor's step angle, whether that's a 1.8 degree step angle, which 99% of printers are, or 0.9 degree if you've swapped it out, or you have a higher end printer like the Daedalus uses 0.9 degree steppers for a little more accuracy. And then the pitch of the lead screw. So, if you've got a traditional 4-start lead screw, you usually end up at 400 steps per millimeter on a 1/16 driver, and a 1/8 degree stepping motor. If you go up to a 2-start, you're usually at 800 steps per millimeter. If you go up to a 1-start, you're usually 1600 steps per millimeter. So those are fixed values. If you're losing steps, what I would recommend you check first is, one, if you have 2 motors, you say you have 2 motors. If you're not using identical motors, what will happen is, especially if you're wiring them in parallel, which most people do, one motor will get more current than the others. If you have 2 Z motors, they should be identical. They should be exactly the same. So if you're going from 1 Z motor to 2, they should be identical motors. If they aren't, especially when you're wiring them in parallel, you're going to have a power imbalance between the 2 motors, and one could start losing steps. But yeah, don't ever calibrate your X, Y, or Z. It's all calculated based on those parameters. So, the lead screw pitch, your belt. So like your pulley on that drives the belt on your X and Y. If you have a belt driven X and Y, you count how many teeth it has, and then you go online, you find a calculator. So like, for example, I believe a 20-tooth pulley would come out to 100 steps per millimeter, and a 16-tooth pulley would come out to 80 steps per millimeter. Or they could be flipped. I'm just giving examples that there's different based on the teeth. Most of your printers use a 2GT or GT2 style belt. Those would typically be numbers you'll see if you look at the X and Y steps on your printer. They're typically 80 or 100. For example, let's say I dropped my stepping mode down from 1/16 to 1/8. Well, now if my steps on the X and Y were 100 and I dropped my step rate in half on the driver's side, now they'd be 50. So you can also cut your steps in half. Certain axes like the Z, it's not a bad idea actually to drop your driver down into a lower mode if you're running a very high step rate lead screw, because the more steps you have per millimeter, the less torque it can have. So, yeah, so you added an extra Z stepper. They do not match. I would highly recommend replacing, just get another one of the same. Highly recommend running these same motors. I would specifically recommend just getting another Creality motor to match the OEM one. And be careful where you buy your motors from, because yes, their NEMA 17s are kind of a universal standard for motors, but I've had motors that I purchased on eBay years ago that when I started moving to Trinamic drivers, they ran like crap because the coil resistance was so high. They just didn't play nice, and they ended up overheating. And when I went down to actually cheaper motors than the ones that were on there, everything worked great because they were just like generic stepper motors for 3D printers. So you got to be careful too. Don't be buying like weird motors. Typically try to find stuff that's geared towards 3D printing, because they typically will then fall into resistance that is friendly towards your printers. There's a lot of sellers on eBay that will sell kits of motors, and I bought these when I was new and didn't know any better. But they're like used stepper motors that were pulled out of laser printers. And while they do fit and they do work, they just run really hot because they're very high resistance. So Andrew Osmond said he put a CR Touch, I'm sorry, on your Ender 3 Max. Do I need to remove the Z stop from the main board? You typically do need to remove you typically do remove your Z end stop when you put an auto bed leveling system on your printer. So that's typically standard process. So if you put a BL Touch on, you take the end stop off. You put a Easy ABL on, you take the end stop, or wait. I just messed up words. So if you put a BL Touch on, you do remove the ZN stop typically. If you put an Easy ABL on, you do remove the ZN stop. The CR Touch looks like an abomination. I saw the pictures of it, and the price they're charging for. You should just get a BL Touch. The CR Touch is a knockoff of the BL Touch. I don't know how they're getting away with it and how Collabs isn't going after them, because the BL Touch is a patented device. And Creality uses the BL Touch on their machine. So basically, Creality knocked off a product that they were buying from another company and selling with their printers. So, yeah. I've also been hearing that the CR Touch rattles a lot, which doesn't surprise me. I'm not a big fan of stuff with moving parts. That's why we don't sell the BL Touches. There's more stuff to go wrong. That's one of the main reasons I believe our Easy ABL is better than a BL Touch, is mainly because it's solid state. So, let's see. Did I miss any questions here? Oh, look at that, more questions. Marcus says, is there a limit to how many extension cables you can use building in the printers, and I want to extend the CR box outside the enclosure? So I'm going to tell you less is more. The less extension cables you have, the better. At a certain point, if you're talking 10, 15, 20 feet, you are going to start getting voltage drop, and you could start getting weird issues like step loss, just because of the resistance of the cables. In general, especially for the printers, keep your cables as short as possible. And it's better to have the wires soldered instead of having a bunch of connectors, because you got to remember, every single connector you add, you are now adding 2 more potential points of failure, one for each connector, the male and the female end, that could cause issues. So just keep that in mind. Anytime I've extended cables, I have never bought extension kits. I have literally soldered in extra wire and heat shrunk it, because that's the most solid connection you can get, short of replacing the whole wire with a whole new run. I would highly recommend staying away from extension cables. Extension cables are for people that are lazy, that don't want to take the time to properly extend their wires. Properly extending them would be, cutting them, soldering them, or getting new wires that are the proper length. And the problem is, we've seen so many people that have yelled and screamed at us because our stuff was broken, and it ended up just being that their extension cable kits from China just had really poor quality connectors, and they just happened to do that. They happened to add on those at the same time they were installing our product, and thought it was our fault, when it ended up being just shitty quality extension cables. So, yeah, I don't like extension cables, if that's not clear. Would I consider high resistance stepper in ohms? Basically anything over 10 ohms of coil resistance. I think the ones I was having issues with were like 15 or 16 ohms coil resistance. In my experience, most stepper motors ohm out anywhere between like 2 to 5 ohms on most printers. So yeah, they're just harder to drive. You got more resistance, so it's harder on the the driver. So, is there a good XY motor replacement for the Ender 6? The Y shaft is so long, its flexes and is starting to bend. Yeah, I was worried about that when I saw mine. Knock on wood, I haven't had any issues with mine. I don't know of a way. I don't know of a place I can tell you right now to go buy. You could try reaching out to Tiny Machines 3D. Getting replacement motors in for the Ender 6 is actually on my list. I don't know how many people are having issues with it, but I do want to have them just for my personal use in case mine breaks. I am getting in replacement bearings, and come to find out, 10 millimeter belt idlers with 4 millimeter ID bearings are a custom order item, and that's what Creality uses on the Ender 6s. So I am getting I'm getting bearing kits made to replace the plastic Ender 6 bearings. So you've got those belt idler bearings on the Ender 6 that are plastic. I'm getting in full kits to replace them all with metal ones, but they're not cheap because they're all freaking 4 millimeter. I can find 3 millimeter internal diameter ones. I can find 5 millimeter internal diameter ones that are for a 10 millimeter with belt. I cannot find ones with a 4mm. So it's not, you know, and every one of the suppliers I sent out to 3 different suppliers over in China, I was like, hey, can you guys find these? Or are these a thing that exists? Because I can't find them on Amazon, can't find them on AliExpress or eBay. Like, I was looking for some for myself, and I was like, well, shit, these don't look like they exist, because you can find 6mm with belt ones all day long with 4mm internal diameter bearings, but can't find 10mm with one. So, and all 3 suppliers are like, yeah, these are a customized item. So, thanks, Creality. Why couldn't you make it a 5mm bolt instead of a 4mm bolt? Oh, God. You should sell copper wire in the store. I bought copper-clad aluminum off Amazon too many times. Yeah, you got to be careful on Amazon with buying stuff like that. I have in a pinch. I try not to. I have certain suppliers I buy wire from. But if I'm in a pinch, sometimes I will cave and, you know, bend over and give Bezos some money. And I have had the same experience. It's like 50-50. What I recommend you do is, when you get wire off, especially off Amazon or in general, as soon as you get it, open it up, cut the end off, and look at it. If it's aluminum, send it back. Copper-clad aluminum is garbage. So, I can't tell you how many times we had, when I was an IT manager, there was a company that ran brand new building. They did like 120 network drops. They did everything. Most of it was fine. And we were running PoE cameras and access points. And on the longer runs, we couldn't figure out why, even though the cable was in the limitations of the Cat 5 length, or Cat 5e length, which I think is, 328 feet, we kept getting drop-offs. We couldn't figure it out. Come to find out, the cheap asses that did the wiring used copper-clad aluminum freaking Cat 5 cable, and we were getting voltage drop. So we had to run all new drops for those lines that were dropping out. So, yeah, copper-clad aluminum is garbage. Don't ever buy copper-clad aluminum. Yeah. Ugh. It's so bad. But anyways, yeah, so I've got a couple of my suppliers on the bearings for the Ender 6. I have Joe looking to see if he can get some, because he is an authorized Gates distributor. So he's going to see if I can actually get Gates ones, if they make them, because they do use Gates belts on the Ender 6. And in addition to just having replacement bearings, the kit is going to have toothed idlers, because there's 6, I think it's 6 toothed and 2 smooth, or I'm flipping those. Either way, there's ones that they have all smooth on there, and the problem is, when you ride a belt over the ribs, especially on a Core XY, you can get artifacts from that. So the goal would be to have an upgrade / replacement kit with the toothed idlers to hopefully get a little more accuracy, and not have, you know, belt teeth riding on those smooth idlers, and have toothed idlers where there should be toothed idlers. So I don't know when we'll have those. It's probably a couple weeks, but yeah, I went looking for bearings for my Ender 6, and I was like, I can't find these anywhere unless I want to drill them out and put M5 bolts in, but I don't want to do that. So I was like, well, if I'm having trouble finding them, other people are, I might as well get them in. Let's see. Look and see here. I think there's some mods that allow you to use regular motors. I'm assuming you mean regular motors. I'm Poffenbarter. Any other questions? If there aren't, I am going to wrap this up so you guys can get to your weekend. I'll cut a copy of this and post it on the podcast. So yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, so if you don't catch a stream, they'll be up within, you know, an hour of the stream airing. So anyways, I think it is time for Remo the good boy to get his treat. Dingo stick? Oh, yeah, yeah, you good boy? Yeah. Look at this pup. Hang on. Let's show everybody how big you are. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh. Hey. Oh. Look at that dog. I know you want the treat, don't you? It's like, Dad, just give me the treat. Sit. Shake. No, that's not shake. Shake. No. Both paws down. One up. Shake. Good boy. There we go. Anyways, I hope you guys have a good weekend. I'm going to try to take it easy and get some house stuff done. Nothing too crazy, but just clean up. So, anyways, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. And as always, happy printing. I will see you guys on the next one.